Kia ora. My name is Matthew Papish and I work for Caritas. The Archdiocese had hoped to have working bees in the North and South Island, but given the COVID-19 situation, this will not be happening this year, unfortunately. Instead, this webinar takes the opportunity to share stories and to have conversations about the benefit impact events held over the recent years in the Archdiocese. These are events which bring people together for a week, train local community members as benefit advocates, and invite beneficiaries to come and check their entitlements. Advocates then accompany beneficiaries to specific appointments with work and income. The Archdiocese of Wellington has now held 6 benefit impacts. The first was in Upper Hutt in 2016, followed by Naina in 2017. This was followed by events in 2019 in Kapiti, and then this year in Levin and Otaki, and an event for members of the deaf community. Today, we will hear from 3 speakers sharing experiences, and then everyone will have an opportunity to go into a breakout room to chat directly with someone involved in one of the impacts. But first, we will open with a prayer based on Pope Francis's message for the World Day of the Poor, 2021.
Kia ora. So this is a reflection based on Pope Francis's message for the World Day of the Poor, which is illustrated with images from benefit impact events in Upper Hutt, Lower Hutt and Otaki. The face of God, revealed by Jesus, is that of a father concerned for and close to the poor. In everything, Jesus teaches that poverty is not the result of fate, but a concrete sign pointing to his presence among us. We do not find him when and where we want, but see him in the lives of the poor, in their sufferings and needs, in the often inhuman conditions in which they are forced to live. The poor are true evangelizers, for they were the first to be evangelized and called to share in the Lord's joy and his kingdom. Jesus not only sides with the poor, he also shares their lot. This is the meaning of his observation: the poor you will always have with you. The poor will always be with us, yet that should not make us indifferent, but summon us instead to a mutual sharing of life that does not allow proxies. The poor are not people outside our communities, but brothers and sisters whose sufferings we share. The poor are a sacrament of Christ. They represent his person and point to him. It is my hope that the celebration of the World Day of the Poor, now in its 5th year, will grow in our local churches and inspire a movement of evangelization that meets the poor personally wherever they may be. We cannot wait for the poor to knock on our door. We need urgently to reach them in their homes, in hospitals and nursing homes, on the streets and in the dark corners where sometimes they hide, in shelters and reception centres. It is important to understand how they feel, what they are experiencing, and what their hearts desire. The poor are present in our midst. How evangelical it would be if we could say with all truth, we too are poor, because only in this way will we truly be able to recognize them, to make them part of our lives and an instrument of our salvation.
Amen. We will now hear from 3 speakers who will share for 5 minutes each about the Archdiocesan Benefit Impacts. The first speaker is Paul Alsford, who is a community facilitator for Wellington Catholic Social Services. No, Michael.
Kia ora, and thank you, Matthew, and kia ora, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. As I said, my name is Paul, and I'm the community facilitator with Catholic Social Services. So I've had the opportunity to be involved with the 3 benefit impacts this year. But what I wanted to briefly just talk to you about is a couple of things, a little bit of the mechanics of how benefit impact comes together. But I just wanted you to imagine for a moment, as we recognise and celebrate World Day of the Poor, that this is an encounter with people who are poor. They might be poor in information, or poor in dollar terms, or poor in resources and understanding what's going on around the world of benefits. And as they become involved with a benefit impact, which is often them walking into a room full of people, they might be walking in with a sense of nervousness, they might be walking in with a sense of uncertainty, skepticism, or they might be walking in with a sense of hopefulness. So I just wanted to put that thought right up front as to what happens, because our role in organising a benefit impact is to set up the right sort of environment where a person in that situation can get the support that they need. So what is a benefit impact? Well, really it's a joint parish and community centred event where any person in that community, no matter where they're from, no matter their background, can seek advice and support on their benefit entitlements. They might be on a benefit already, or they might be on a low income, doesn't matter. They have that opportunity. And because the benefit impact is a week long, they have enough opportunity to be able to come in during that whole week and find the time that they need. The important thing is that it's free. And when they do come in, they have an opportunity to sit down with a trained benefit advocate, someone who can listen to their story and work through with them what's going on. And as Matthew has already mentioned, through pre-arrangement, which I won't go into now, we will often have that person's information from work and income, so we know what their benefit status is, and that helps the discussion and helps to understand what's going on. But what's most critical is that when they walk in and they have that discussion, someone is listening to their story. And if there are gaps or issues, sometimes a discussion, sometimes a phone call, but as has already been mentioned, sometimes it's that combination of where that person with their benefit advocate can actually set up a meeting one-on-one with a case officer from work and income in their local community, sit down at a pre-arranged appointment and work through what those issues are. And it's that combination right at the end which really makes a lot of this work come together. So at the end of the day, that's just a quick run through of what might happen in the space of those initial encounters for that person. What we've also got to do is make certain, as I said at the beginning, that the right environment is set up, because our goal always is this with that week, that whoever comes in is made welcome, they've got hospitality to make them feel welcome, and the whole thing is a dignified experience and with very important confidentiality about the information that they're sharing. So as we mentioned right at the beginning, we've had 3 benefit impacts this week in Levin, Otaki, and with the deaf community in Horowhenua. We've had 149 people make use of those benefit impacts. We've had 44 people trained as advocates. And in order for all that stuff to work, we've had some critical big moving parts that we've joined together. One is, of course, the initiation by the Archdiocese of Wellington through Cardinal John, where we make the initial contact with the Ministry of Social Development to get involved the local work and income office. Happening at the same time as I would have done some work, say this year as an example, with a local parish to talk to them about the idea and get them to connected with the idea of being a host of a benefit impact. And when we start to pull all those things together, the next critical part is being involved, getting involved Hutt Valley Best, which Teresa will talk to you about in a minute. But they are our experts around benefit advocacy, and they support us through that whole week. So once we've got the parish involved, once we've got those moving parts together, and once we've locked down a week of when this is going to happen, this might be a few months down the track, things start moving very quickly. So what I want to wrap up on is some of the sort of the key takeaways for me. Once the community and once the parish have got on board with this, organising it's always so critical, and that's why the organising team that forms is so crucial. And we've had over 25 community and church groups involved with the 3 events we've had this year, so people come on board. We also access funding through various philanthropic trusts, and that's a crucial part of this because the benefit impact does cost. We've obviously got our advocates who are trained up, and Teresa will talk about that a little bit later on. But again, I just want to return to my very first point, and that is for someone who has an encounter with a benefit impact, it all wraps around the fact that they're coming in and that they can walk away with a sense of being listened to, have been welcomed through the hospitality that we provide, feel dignified, and have that confidentiality that they expect. So that just gives you a very quick snapshot of what a benefit impact is all about. I'll pass you now back on to Matthew, and thank you for listening to me.
Kia ora, thank you for that, Paul. That's awesome to hear about the amazing work that you guys have been doing, and to hear a bit about the background of what it takes to get this thing working. I'll now pass it on to our second speaker, who is Teresa from Hutt Valley Benefit Education Service Trust, also known as Hutt Valley BEST. Teresa and her team at BEST work to support the beneficiaries through education and advocacy. They have been key partners in the Archdiocesan Benefit Impacts, providing training, supervision, and oversight of the advocacy. Kia ora, thank you, Teresa.
Look, I'm not used to or good with this technology, but hello all. I think the main purpose of, I think the best thing for me to do is actually to share with you some of the stories of people who have come to an impact and how we have been able to help. I will read from notes, so if I look down, that's what I'm doing. So the main purpose of a benefit impact is to improve the financial position of the people coming to an impact. So I will share with you some of the success stories we had at these impacts, with the details a little obscured for the sake of privacy. There was the New Zealand super client who was unaware that they could apply for assistance with their rental costs and who hadn't been told this by Work and Income. We were able to assist this person to apply for both the accommodation supplement and temporary additional support, which increased their finances by over $80 a week. Another person was also not receiving the accommodation supplement, even though when they asked for a breakdown of their benefit payments, it was identified by Work and Income they should have been and how much. On further looking into this, we found that they had been in receipt of this assistance, but it had been suspended some years back. And even though the person had tried to communicate this, nothing was done to correct the error. We were able to get the assistance started again and backdated to the time it's suspended, which meant a backdate of over $2,500 and a weekly increase of $20. Again, we helped a person who, due to a break from being on benefit, had been returned to a benefit, but was not being paid the one they thought they were and were eligible to receive. This took a bit more time and required follow-up after the impact. The correct benefit entitlement was eventually sorted and backdate paid. The weekly benefit that should have been paid was the benefit for people with a long-term medical condition that meant they could not work full-time. The difference from this benefit and the job seeker one that they were receiving is currently $58.15 a week. Another couple came to the impact and we identified they were not getting the disability allowance. We raised this with the case manager who told us the people had a support person who helped them with their benefit, and the case manager contacted the support person and was meeting with them to get the disability allowance up and running. The maximum disability allowance is $66.11 weekly, dependent on the verified costs, and that's for each qualifying person. A young mum was asking for help to buy a cot, but because of a misinterpretation of the policy, was told they couldn't have help to buy a cot, but could have help for cot blankets. We looked into this and were able to show that this was not the case and the cot could be included, which it was. Another family had several health issues, the parents as well as the children, which meant they were struggling to meet their everyday living costs of rent and food. The volunteer advocates were able to work with them through the issues and access the disability allowance for the parents and extra support for the children who were entitled to the child disability allowance, which is a payment of $49.83 weekly for each child who qualifies. This increased their finances considerably and made access to extra health-related care possible. Not all people who come to the impact have their benefit changed, but we are able to show them what they are getting and why they are not eligible for further assistance. We worked with one person, and after accessing all the irrelevant information, we could explain that he had assets worth more than the cut-out points for accommodation supplement, which is $8,100 for a single person. We were able to give him the figures he needed and to let him know when he would be eligible for the assistance. He was satisfied with this and was less confused now that he was better informed. The added advantage to an impact is that the volunteers who may have had no previous understanding of the benefit system and its complexities and limitations become aware of this first. So the hurdles they can't get over, there is assistance to support them in the community. It also can help to give a snapshot to work and income case managers in regard to some inefficiencies, such as proactive communication, gaps in policy and legislation knowledge that impact on people not receiving FACE, that is, their full and correct entitlement. Thanks for hearing this, and back to you, Matthew.
Well, thank you, Teresa, for that. It's awesome to hear about what it really means going through this process, and some of the stories that are hugely valuable for us who may be unaware of the difficulties of interacting with the benefit system. Kia ora. I'm now gonna pass the microphone along to our third speakers, who are Karen and Vinnie, brother and sister. Karen is Director of Wellington Catholic Social Services, and Vinnie is part of the deaf community. Kia ora, Karen. Me Vinnie.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you, Matthew. As Matthew said, this is my brother Vinnie. Vinnie is deaf, and he has been deaf from birth. So he's not hard of hearing category. He's actually deaf from birth. So he's given me permission to introduce him in this way and to tell you that he is a member of the deaf community. And after years of struggling to find full-time work, he now is a gold card holder, and so is now a full-time beneficiary. This hasn't always been the case for Vinnie. He wanted to be independent, and he was quite focused on having security for the future. And so all he managed to get ever was part-time work, which meant that he was still engaged with work and income because he required the top-ups. He was only ever able to get work in organisations where usually required a significant amount of physical work. And also they were environments that were often unsympathetic to the fact of the challenges faced by Vinnie because of his deafness. No recognition whatsoever of the cultural needs that he faced as a deaf person. And so life has been a series of some work, some full-time benefit, sometimes some work and top-ups from work and income. Vinnie came and participated in the benefit impact for the deaf in Levin that we ran this year. And through that impact, we actually learned a tremendous amount about the struggles of a certain particular sector within the deaf community, particularly the deaf community of Vinnie's age. And mostly that's because of the way that deaf children were educated in those days. And so these are some of the highlights that we're going to talk about. I'm going to ask Vinnie to talk as well. If you don't understand him, I'm sorry, but I'll do my best to try and help. So I've been having to interpret for Vinnie what some of the speakers have been saying. So I'm just going to ask you to go with it and see how we get along. So the first thing I wanted to tell you was that while the deaf community, people in the deaf community are part of the disability sector, they see themselves as, they don't see themselves as disabled, first of all. They see themselves as a socio-linguistic cultural group. So that's often not understood. One of the first challenges that we discovered through the process of the benefit impact was the difficulty with interpreters. Now, I'm just going to ask Vinnie to talk about needing interpreters when he goes to work and income. So do you want to talk about interpreters at work and income?
We asked them Roberta shortly before, but the service, but the benefit now I've got computer on the window.
Shall I say? So what he said is that he's asked for interpreters when he goes to work and income, and they go, no, we've got computers. We'll just type it up on the screen. Okay.
Actually, not that one, but I don't understand reason.
Yeah.
And these
yeah.
Each clear picture.
Yeah. And he said, no, I don't understand what you're typing on the screen. I can't understand it. I need someone to interpret so that they can create easy to understand pictures so that we can communicate. Okay, so what I want to say now is that agencies like Work and Income, they often lack the understandings of the best way to communicate, particularly to the deaf community. They often use written word alone, and as I said before, the way in which deaf children of Vinnie's age were educated is they often can only read the simplest of words and can't read complex figures, numbers, or ideas. So the utilisation of technology is always problematic. Then there comes to privacy and safety. The utilisation of interpreters, when they do, without Vinnie or another deaf client having the choice about who interprets for them, causes a sense of invasion of their privacy. Bear in mind that this is personal and private information that they're sharing. Okay, so do you want to talk about privacy and safety? Do you want to talk about that? Just 1 minute. Okay, we're back.
I'll post it on this super, this month of super, but one thing super, yeah. But the other, but my mind, people talk too fast, but I need clear picture, so that's me.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing about privacy and safety is filling in of forms. When you fill in the forms, it's often really problematic. Like I said before, it's often understanding the language in the forms. And there's a lack of trust, because what ends up happening is that often the deaf person like Vinnie will fill in the form, not really sure what they're filling in. And the next thing they know, they've got a debt. They owe Work and Income money. Is that right? And often they don't understand, because of the complex way that Work and Income operates, that they might be asking for assistance for something and they may be signing up and actually end up in debt. There's a big issue of trust. Talk about trust. So, do you want to talk about how you trust? 1 minute. I know I've only got a few minutes left.
Mistake,
Too many mistakes.
too many owe them. Not
Keeps
understanding.
owing them money.
Too much owe them. I don't know what's going on.
He doesn't know what he's entitled to or what is a loan.
Maybe it's done wrong way.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
Don't know what that means.
So what they're writing down, what they're putting on the screen, or perhaps writing with a pen and paper,
Some hard work.
Yeah. they're too hard, and it means then that he can't actually trust. So look, our time is up, but we will be in one of the chat rooms in a minute, and so through working this way with Vinnie, we can answer any questions that you may have. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. You did well.
Kia ora. Thank you very much, Karen and Vinnie. It's awesome to be able to interact and encounter people from these different communities to us. It's really a rich experience in terms of learning and encounter. We're now going to move into breakout rooms. Insights that you'd like to share with the group, please use the chat function to send a message to the group. Please remember to be gentle and kind in your comments. Not seeing many messages in the chat, but I'd like to extend a special thank you to all of our speakers, our contributors. Teresa, it was awesome to hear from you and the work that Hutt Valley Dix is doing. It seems like it's great that you can increase the knowledge and the information that people have about how to navigate this difficult and complex system. And kia ora, thank you to Paul for your input and illuminating about how we in the community can work together to increase the livelihood of people through their access and movement throughout the benefit system. And kia ora, thank you to Karen and Vinnie. Thank you very much for your contribution and for reaching through to us who occupy a sort of different social sphere, a different social linguistic community. So it's awesome to be able to have that sort of encounter between two communities. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for participating in today's seminar. This has been the first for the Archdiocese, Catholic Social Services, and the EJP Commission. Thank you for being a part of their learning curve for online gatherings. And thank you very much to Teresa for putting this all together and getting everyone sort of coordinated in this one space so we can encounter and communicate. We will now ask Father Tom Bruce to close our gathering with a prayer. Father Tom is a member of the Ecology, Justice and Peace Commission and a convener of the Commission's Poverty Committee. Thank you, Father Tom.
Thank you, Matthew. Let us pray. Jesus, you walk with people who suffer not just because they don't have enough, but because people don't listen. They don't listen to the story. And like with the way you spoke to Bartimaeus, you asked him, what can I do for you? You respected his right to tell you what he wanted. So you ask us, and we ask for your help, that we may listen carefully to what people are saying, to listen to those who often find it too nervous to go into a room of other people and to seek help, because there's no special room where they can be respected, a place where they can sit quietly with somebody. And then they may be too nervous because they're not too sure what to say. So we ask Jesus that we can be more careful in the way we listen to others, listen to those around us, listen to those who experience pain, because they don't have what they need in order to be able to enjoy a healthy, happy life. We ask for the blessing of your mother, Mary, a woman who passed on her values, the values of a home where people listened to others, people told stories, people passed on those stories so that people could come to know God in a new way. So we thank you for the wonderful experience this afternoon, listening to people who, in the work of benefit impact, are trying to walk with others, not to tell others, but to listen to them, to make them feel welcome, and to enable them to be able to access the help that they need. We thank you for those who can speak more slowly so that people can understand what is being said or the forms that are being shown to them. We ask for that sensitivity that enables us to assist people in seeing the help that they deserve. And so we ask your blessing upon us. We ask that we may indeed be people who walk together with hope and confidence, that we may indeed come to know a society which cares for one another. We make this prayer through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.